Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Wednesday, October 26th. Welcome aboard, and we have got the Hall of Famer, Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Make sure you go there and give him a follow. Complete coverage on all things sports for everything you will ever need. How are you doing, sir?
Doing good. Got my taste of football and basketball over the weekend. Louisville played football Friday night against Pitt and had their best win of the year. And then got my first look at the Cardinals on Saturday in a red-white scrimmage game. And action started to pick up. It's been a little slow this week with no baseball, but we'll be back on Friday.
Yeah, I got a commercial started in my ear that I can't stop. I hate John Lewis talking to me in my ear on WDRB.com there. I hate when they do when the videos, they start automatically. I hate that. And then you're scrambling to try to stop it. You couldn't hear it, but it's just John was just blaring in my ear. Tell him thanks a lot, by the way.
I will.
I hope he's doing well. One of the things I was going to ask is Tom Allen's seat is, I don't think it's warm because I don't think he's going anywhere this year. But if this were another year, whose seat would be warmer, Tom Allen's or Scott Satterfield's? Or are they the same right now?
I think if you threw out the buyout situation, I would say probably Tom Allen. I mean, you're looking at Indiana probably not winning another game the rest of this year. And then you're talking about back-to-back seasons where you've finished the year on 9 straight losses.
Yep.
And then when you look at who they've beaten, it's 2 wins over Idaho, 2 wins over Western Kentucky, and the 1 win over Illinois, and that's it. And Louisville, last year they were 6-7. This year they're now 4-3. And they've. I'm not saying they're going to win against Wake Forest, but they're only a 4-point underdog against the number 10 team in the country. And the game's a home game, and they got a chance down the stretch to pick off a couple of wins. I could see them possibly beating NC State at home because NC State's quarterback's out for the year. I don't think they're not going to win at Clemson. They're not going to win at Kentucky, I don't think, but they could get 2 of the last 4 and get to 6, and Indiana's not getting to 6.
No.
And their biggest covet would be Jeff Brom, of course, that everyone knows, but he's having a good enough year at Purdue where there's probably not a lot of grumbling from them. He's still chasing a Big Ten West title potentially this season, which that would really change the conversation. And then you add the fact that in 2 years from now, there is going to be an influx of money into the Big Ten that the ACC doesn't even the additional money that's coming in is more than the ACC teams are getting now.
Right.
So it's like, I can't imagine from a financial standpoint. It's kind of like the position in reverse that Texas A&M is in with Jimbo Fisher. Well, they can't get rid of him. It would cost them too damn much money, like $86 million or something.
Yeah, I mean, going back to IU, the thing that's the right word, puzzling, concerning, annoying, however you want to put it, whatever your perspective is, that they just have these long stretches in the games where they're totally inept, where you feel like they come out there and it's going to be a 3-and-out, and it's 3-and-out followed by 3-and-out followed by 3-and-out, and even the defense really, I mean, the offense gave them a 14-0 lead on Saturday at Rutgers, which has a terrible offense, and they still couldn't get it done. So I don't know what's wrong, but wherever it was 2 years ago to wherever it's now, something's happened, whether it's, coaches who are gone or the talent that's changed or the chemistry of the conditioning or whatever. But there needs to be, after the season, a total examination of what's going on and how they need to develop some toughness and some grit. They talk about that, but when the going gets tough, they're just not capable of doing it.
I have noticed, and it just dawned on me since you said that Tom has stopped popping out new words to use.
Great point.
as they have been doing a lot of times, because I think he knows that there's other things to focus on. But the biggest thing to me is the defense. The defense has been the biggest disappointment to me, because how much can you expect out of Walt Bell? You know, be a miracle worker. I think he's done okay. I think they've done okay. They've been an okay offense sometimes. They've done enough sometimes. If the defense would have, and the defense has been put in a lot of bad positions, don't get me wrong, but they've also just not done anything. They haven't gotten pressure on the quarterback. They haven't gotten a lot of turnovers. They haven't given the offense great field position. And Tom Allen made it a point to go back and call the defense. That is what is the scariest part to me.
Yeah, and he was good at it when he first was brought in by Kevin Wilson the first few years at IU, and for whatever reason it hadn't happened this year. As far as the offense goes, you know, we can talk about schemes, we can talk about coordinators, we can talk about all this stuff, but you know, from my seat when you sit and watch them play, is they just don't have the dudes. I mean, you can scheme them up and coach them up as many as you want to, but if you can't block the opposing team well enough to run the ball consistently on first down, to stay out of second and third long passing, where the other team knows that your running game is so inept, they can rush 4, maybe sometimes 3, at most 5, and you know, make it impossible for Bozich to find anybody open. I mean, you're just not going to move the ball. They need, I don't know, they need better players for sure.
Well, and they trail, Dustin. They trail everyone in recruiting right now. Commitments, I think, with only 8. You're muted, by the way. For next year, that is an issue that is going to cause serious problems next season, and they're going to have to hit the transfer portal seriously hard.
Well, they had a ton of momentum on the recruiting trail. I mean, Tom Allen had, I think, at one point, maybe going into that 2019 season, before they really even took off, he had 6 or 7 of Indiana's top 10 all-time recruits. That is falling off, because you cannot go, as Rick said, you can't go 2-10 and then 3-9 with a couple of 9-game losing streaks to close out the year and sustain that sort of momentum. The other thing that I think is a problem, they've had 3 offensive coordinators in 4 seasons. They've had 3 defensive coordinators in 3 seasons. There is no continuity on that staff. In Indiana, there are places like Iowa, Northwestern, where they have at least some continuity. You know that guys are going to be there usually a couple of years. Now, there might be a guy that stops on those staffs and is there for maybe just a year and goes someplace else. But you have to have continuity among your staff. And it's like the guys that Tom Allen kept around were not the guys you needed to keep around, and the guys that left were the guys that you did need to build that continuity. So I think there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of problems. The thing that really concerns me is I feel like there's going to be a lot of major changes this offseason again. And that's not very often when you see a staff make wholesale changes and it turns out well for the head coach. I can think of Scott Frost at Nebraska. I can think of Darrell Hazel at Purdue. Usually if you have to make some significant changes, the only one I think remember working out is Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. They ended up winning the Big Ten. So something to keep an eye on. I like Tom Allen. I love that he loves being the head coach at IU, but it's looked so bad the last 2 weeks, and you basically have fielded the same team the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go through a stretch where you played, you know, Nebraska, Maryland, and Rutgers and not beat any of them, and you just can't. I mean, when you're at Indiana, because you know you're not going to beat Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, maybe Michigan State this year. I guess that game is possibly, you know, I'd give them maybe a 20% chance to win that game. But when you got Nebraska, Maryland, and Rutgers, you got to get one of those. You can't get swept in back-to-back years by Rutgers and Maryland. You can't.
Nope. And that is where they are. They are back to being the Rutgers of the Big Ten. And boy, that was a quick fall. On the other side of the
basketball
stadium, campus, I guess you'd say, other side of the parking lot is Assembly Hall. Simon Scott Assembly Hall, where Saturday at 3:00 we get our first look at Indiana as for real in a semi-real setting with an exhibition, but it will be an opportunity to see this group Rick, to see this starting lineup. I don't know if we're going to see anything about how Mike substitutes, because he would probably do it differently in this game than he probably would in a real game. But I think we probably will see mass substitutions tomorrow. I don't know, or Saturday rather, but you're going to see a lot of guys. I mean, I think there's so much talent there. He's going to want to see it.
No question about it. And neat to see it. I think it's a good time. I think last year, one of the things that happened was early in the year, I don't think he played enough. Some of the younger guys, specifically Logan Duncan, maybe was hurt. I don't remember, but you need to get some of those young guys some opportunities, not only in the first 2 exhibition games, but in the Morehead State game and a few other ones. After that, we'll all be looking for, I think, the same things to see if Jalen Hood-Schifino is as good as advertised, because the reviews on him from people who've been to practice, from his teammates, from NBA scouts, has been universally, that he might be the best NBA prospect on the team. We'll be looking to see, is Miller Kopp still in the starting lineup? Is he a little bit more assertive, confident, aggressive shooting the shot than he was last year?
We had Don Fisher. Don Fisher was
yeah.
on with us Monday. He says that Trey Galloway is actually shooting the ball better, in addition to Miller Kopp, but that Trey Galloway, on Monday, he said that has actually been shooting the ball a lot better, which that would be a gigantic step for Indiana, because he's not someone that provided a lot of offensive input. He had some games where he could get 8 points for you, that's all you can ask. But generally, he's more of a facilitator, if that makes sense. He's not the guy facilitating, but he's just kind of in the mix there.
Yeah, the number one thing I want to see from Trey Galloway is cut back on turnovers. His turnover percentage has been too high the last 2 years. He's had a number of plays where he does that thing where he drives and gets to sort of where he wants to be, but not all the way to where he wants to be, and then isn't sure what he's going to do with the ball and throws it up. So he's a guy. I mean, between Geronimo, Bates, and Galloway, one of those guys really needs to make a leap forward for Indiana to be an elite team. They got to have one of those guys really come through and make a step where you say, it doesn't have to be the Oladipo step, because people always talk about that, and we don't see that very often. There's only been one Oladipo over the last 20 years, but just a step to be, this is a dependable player who you can put in the game for 20 or 25 minutes, and he's not going to hurt you, and he's going to help you by making defensive plays or making hustle plays or rebounding plays and an occasional big shot.
5 Left says you got to trust player development, Dustin and Rick. People need to see player development. That's, I think, something that recruits need to see.
Yes.
This is a season where they're not exactly knocking it out of the ballpark with recruits that they have taken on. So they need to see development from Tamar Bates, from Jordan Geronimo. You mentioned a bad turnover to assist ratio, he turned the ball over too much. But guys like him, Miller Kopp, does he get better? But they need to see player development because
Logan Duncan's another one to see player development from. And
for the bigs,
Davis and Race Thompson have talked him up pretty big, as if he's going to be somebody who can come in. You view him as a guy who's going to be a valuable piece in the Big Ten, because the Big Ten is still a league with big, full-size centers. They don't have as many of these 6'8", 6'9" mobile guys who go out in the perimeter and shoot threes and stuff. So you need Logan Duncan to help you out against Hunter Dickinson. You need him to help you out against Zach Edey. You need him against the Wisconsin guys. A guy who can, establish his position on the post, especially defensively, and in offense, maybe he can make a play here or there, but throw the ball into him and he can get it out to somebody else who can score.
Are you coming up to the exhibition?
No, I got to cover Louisville Wake Forest on Saturday. I'll be there for a week from Monday for the Morehead State game.
Not a lot expected from the first exhibition. What do you think? What are your expectations that you expect to see Woody? What do you think he's looking for out of this?
I think he wants to see who plays well with each other. I think he wants to see who plays with confidence, and who guards. and we're all talking about offense, but let's remember the number one improvement Indiana made last year was on defense. They were a top 20 defense for most of the year until the very end. They might have finished in the top 20 if not for that horrific performance against St. Mary's. So he wants guys who can guard. And so I think I'll be looking at, how well do some of these guys guard? And then everybody wants to see what the freshmen can do. What skill set do they have, how they contribute, especially Jalen Hood-Schifino. There's no doubt he's going to have to be an impact player for Indiana to be a good team this year because Parker Stewart's gone and there's a starting backcourt spot open. And can he and Xavier Johnson work in the same backcourt together? I know they're both, quote, point guards, but I think they're both can be just guards who can both initiate the offense. And I think we'll want to see another thing that made Indiana improve at the end of last year was Xavier Johnson and Trace Jackson Davis really upgraded their two-man game on the pick and roll and see whether they still have that going.
Yeah, because I think they're going to have that from both sides. I think that Indiana is going to be able to develop that from both sides because of exactly what you just said. Jalen Hood-Schifino can be the 1, the 2, and I think that Xavier Johnson can do that just as well. We've seen him create his own shot. He can facilitate or whatever you need. So I think Indiana is going to have a dangerous offense because of that. It's going to be a lot quicker, and the options are going to be a lot more. And if Miller Kopp could knock down some shots, now you're in trouble because you've got Race Thompson and Trace Jackson Davis roam in the middle. That's a battle. That's a challenge.
Yeah, I mean they got a lot of pieces. I mean, and we've thought that in previous years about some Indiana teams, and then you look at it and say they don't really have anybody on the bench. This year it looks like, if you go with Hood-Schifino, Kopp, Johnson, Thompson, and Jackson Davis starting, then I would think the first man off the bench is probably Bates. And then Geronimo, and then Galloway. Those would be the top 3.
Which is kind of amazing because a lot of people would have thought a lot of people would have thought that Tamar Bates would have started last year, and then by this season, unquestionably that he started. And I don't know. Even if he had gotten even or slightly surpassed Miller Kopp, I don't know that what he makes that change just to keep bringing Tamar off the bench to have that way, because we know he likes to have that new wave.
Yeah, I've been encouraged I've just read a story about Bates, and I was encouraged by some of the quotes in there where they said, did you ever consider going in? He admitted he was frustrated that he didn't play in the second half of a bunch of Big Ten games last year, which he didn't. And they asked him if he ever considered going in the portal. He said not for a minute, that whatever issues he had was a matter of him needing to improve, not what happened at Indiana. And he wasn't raised that way. When you have something bad happens, you run from it, which that's a very mature thing for a guy to say. What I need to see from Bates is his whole demeanor, his whole approach to basketball isn't dictated about whether his shot's going in or not. He's like a lot of freshmen, like last year when he comes in and he doesn't make any first thing he does when he gets the ball is shoot it, not set somebody else up or drive it. It's shoot it. And then when a shot doesn't go in, he's not contributing another way. He's a guy who can break his man down off the dribble and get inside and force somebody else to switch on him and feed somebody else. He needs to, just like Galloway, improve his assists and decrease his turnovers. Those guys are a little bit the same in that manner.
You had a piece out not too long ago in regards to John Calipari's recent comments at SEC Media Days. I mentioned that I was up at Big Ten Media Days and talked to Mike Woodson and asked him about that very question. And Mike had said that he had hoped that they could get something done within the next 2 or 3 seasons. That was the quickest that they could get it done. And then John Calipari said that they had indeed reached. It drives me nuts that they let him steal all the thunder. But of course, but I love your opening words in Rick's piece at WDRB.com. It says, now that John Calipari has conquered a decade of grudge holding about getting court stormed at Assembly Hall and decided to bless Indiana with another basketball game, he has one request, and that is to play it at the local schools. And I agree with that. I know that that's not going to happen. I hope that at the very least, it's a 4-year rotating, one on, one off, one on, one off, whether it's, at the Yum Center, then Gamebridge, then Rupp, then Assembly Hall, which probably Assembly Hall would absolutely be last because that is the most. You already know where I'm going. That is the most options for Calipari to no longer be there.
Right.
So I think that's going to happen anyway. I don't know that he's here 2 years more. There's no guarantee that he's here 2 more years. We'll see, but I don't care. I'm glad the game's happening. I don't care where it's played.
Yeah, I mean, what I wrote was, and Kentucky has a sort of a tradition of playing these games away from Lexington, and I've written before that it's not fair to their fans. The home fans get stuck with a lot of crappy games that they have to pay for in November and December. Give them some of the marquee games. You're asking them to, spend a lot of money to come watch games. So my point is every student who goes to UK and U of L, and it's about the students, right, deserves the chance for IU to be at Rupp one time so their students can go see him, and for UK to be at IU one time so IU students can go see him. If you want to play the 2 other games in the 4-year rotation at the Yum Center or Lucas Oil or Gamebridge or whatever, that's fine, but don't exclude the campus sites from the series.
But they don't gain anything from those other venues because Mike DeCourcy pointed out yesterday, because I was talking about attendance, Rupp holds the most of any of the facilities, I think, even over Gamebridge.
Lucas, they can go for 40,000.
Well, yeah, but that would suck.
Why would put a Final Four in there? You could make it into a match. IU and UK played in RCA Dome.
I know, and it was big. I mean, because it was full. I mean, they filled it. I was there for Damon Bailey when Damon, and then that was a wild environment, man. 41,000 people twice, and
well, I think they're going to do that because Calipari likes.
Oh yes,
events.
The NCAA tournament type fest. Yeah. He also does whatever he can to not put his team at a disadvantage by being at somebody else's place.
So you have 20,000 Kentucky fans there, and the onus would be on IU fans to show up.
Yeah. So you think they're going to go to Lucas Oil?
I do. Yeah.
I'd mentioned that, but I just didn't think that they would. But then that would eliminate, say, Yum Center. It would be I'd say
Lucas Oil. Well, maybe. I guess they could do 2 in Lucas Oil and then 1 each at campus, or there might be some clamor to have that, one closer to Lexington and have it here. Although when I brought that up last week, Louisville fans immediately some of them were indignant about it. Like, they're not playing in Louisville's arena. Well, it's like
they don't own that stadium. They don't have anything to say about it. They'll build their own stadium if they want to control something.
Yeah, but I think that would stir up memories of when IU and UK played in Freedom Hall, and the tickets were divided exactly in half, and you could see right at center court, red on one side, blue on the other. So I think that would be fantastic. It was a good looking scene. That would create buzz. It would get people talking. You'd get the national media in. I think it certainly would be a game that CBS or ESPN or Fox or whoever would want to pounce on for December and program it, on a good slot on a Saturday afternoon. And I think it'd be fun.
I don't understand.
I think it'd be a blast.
I don't know why, if they did this, I don't know why they couldn't, because I would have collaborated with a 4-team multi-team event or something along those lines. I think you could also draw in, if you're going to do it at Lucas Oil, you could draw in Purdue and Louisville and make it.
No. They have already had that crap.
When?
Right.
Well, I mean, they've done different, the Crossroads, which was not Louisville, but the Big Four Classic.
Yeah, that was Louisville and Notre Dame. It wasn't Purdue. Purdue was.
It wasn't Purdue.
It was Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, Louisville. It
went up.
You don't need them.
Yeah, I mean, I think you don't want. I'm speaking as a marketer here. You want to elevate yourself. You don't want to give one of your competitors similar type exposure. You don't. You take the stage all the way to yourself.
Another reason why Calipari wants to come to Indiana and play in the big venue in Indianapolis, because that's a gigantic recruiting base.
You're correct. Marcus Teague came out of there. Trey Lyles came out of there. There's going to be other guys coming out of there. yeah, he likes that exposure in there for sure. I'll say Kentucky already has 2 of those kind of events. They got that Champions Classic with Duke, Michigan State, and Kansas that starts the year every year. And then they got the one in December with North Carolina, UCLA, and Ohio State. That's the one that Indiana was invited to be in, and they had to turn it down because of the Crossroads Classic, and Ohio State got it instead, which was a colossal mistake by Fred Glass. You don't do that.
Wow, that was the first one he ever made.
You got to think as a national brand. That Calipari is the #1 man in college sports, in my opinion, at branding and marketing his team. He makes sure everybody knows that they are a big deal. And I know it annoys some people, but standing back as a neutral observer and saying that dude knows what he's doing. He can sell himself to recruits. He can sell himself to the media. He can sell himself to his fans. He gets it, man. He was ahead of the game in bringing rappers in to the Midnight Madness, and now other schools are doing it. Indiana did it. Louisville did it. He was doing that 10 years ago.
Just right now with that coal miner story. Not that that's not a good story, but look, he's the one out tweeting all the stuff out, so he knows what he's doing. He's getting it. He is just milking that for all it's worth. And I'm not saying that he doesn't enjoy doing the nice thing. I would not say that about anyone. But when the first thing is when the first tweet is coming from that person, I'm like, okay, well, geez, there's no humble pie there, is there? But oh well. But I agree with you. I agree with what you said. He's always thinking, and you know what? And like I said, he doesn't play very many games where he's at a disadvantage. He wants all the chips in his corner, and I don't blame him for that. That's how you win. The more chips you got, the longer you can play. So
I'll defend him on this, Mark. In terms of community service and community outreach, the dude has a heart of gold. He's done huge fundraisers for the earthquake in Haiti, the tornado in Mayfield, Kentucky. They just played that exhibition game in Eastern Kentucky because of the flooding they had last summer. He is community driven and oriented. During the pandemic, he donated a bunch of money to food banks. I mean, he really does do outreach into the community, and he should be commended for that. I think it's sincere. He really does work at it.
Well, you just gave it to him. What's up next for you?
What's up next for me is Louisville against Wake Forest Saturday afternoon at 3:30. The number 10 Demon Deacons with Sam Hartman, a really good quarterback. Looking forward to that game. Then I'll get home in time to watch Kentucky at Tennessee. The Wildcats face the number 3 team in the country on the road as a 12-point underdog. And then Sunday afternoon at 2:00, Kenny Payne and the Louisville Cardinals' first exhibition against Lenore-Rhine. So it's another mixed weekend of football and basketball with some World Series.
No Big Ten plus watching IU and Marion, or
I'll be at the Louisville football game.
Oh, that's right. It's going on. Well, you have to watch it on your phone.
Louisville's 3:33.
Yeah.
I guess I can multitask. How much is the Big Ten plus?
Oh, I don't know. $5. Who knows?
I'll put it on your tab.
Put it, I was going to say, or just expense it. Just expense it.
Just DM me your login.
Got it. Not a problem. The great Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Make sure you're giving him a follow. If you're not, you're missing out. Rick, cannot thank you enough, sir. Can I look forward to seeing you soon?
All right. See you next week and see you at the Morehead State game.